Hello folks, welcome back to part number 2 in this series of 3 where we're talking about the configuration of the machine. Now we covered the A part, which is the canister. We had one canister with the correct tank bands, with a stand, with a ruler for the QMS, and whether the tanks is going with the valves up for a recreational machine or going down for a technical machine. It doesn't matter. A is done. Now we're going to move into the B, which is the electronics. B comes in two different versions, B1 and B2. That is recreational and technical. They have some new thoughts on the configurator at Poseidon.com, talking about duration, and they're talking about deep. I don't know what they are talking about. In the rebreather world, CCR, we have the recreational machine that is non-deco. We have the valves pointing upwards because then it's more convenient with the hoses, short hoses, not so much hoses all over the place. And when it comes to the technical machine, when you go deeper, when you go into deco diving deeper than 40 meters, you have the bottles inverted, so you have the valves down. And of course, you need to have some backup computers and some sensors and stuff. So we're going to talk you through this duration deep stuff so you understand what you are ordering when you want to buy a machine to aim for a certain level of experience that you want to do. I mean, your aim for buying a machine might be that you want to dive to 70 meters. Then you need to have some certain things that I will help you to understand. But to begin with, we're going to talk about the black battery. The black battery is a long story, but it all began in the beginning when they had green batteries. Green batteries 40 meter and is non-decompression batteries. They don't keep up the PU2 if you get a deco obligation at the end of the dive. They will also start blinking red when you are deeper than 40.0 meter. So if you go to 41, they blink red, then you go back to 39.5, they stop blinking red. So that is just an egg timer or an alarm clock for the depth alarm. Then they came up with, because of the training agencies, they wanted to have different levels. So you should buy new batteries as you progress through the education ladder. And they came up with a 48 meter. First of all, the yellow one is 40 meter deco. The blue one is 48 meter deco. The white one is 60 meter deco. And these batteries has just a maximum alarm depth that is settable inside reef or inside the M28 computer, where you can set the egg timer or the alarm, depth alarm, to these maximum depth. 40, 48, 60 meters. This black battery, which came eventually, the maximum depth alarm is 125 meter. And if you buy a machine for $10,000, you don't want to invest another $500 in a battery just because you had the wrong color of the battery to begin with. So I try to push them now for 8 years to just ditch all the batteries. This is not important for them. It's important for the divers. It's important when you're trying to sell the machine as a used machine. You don't want to have the green battery inside. So when you're ordering the machine, you should demand that you should have a black battery in the system when you are ordering the machine. The battery is powering the system as you dive. So this is crucial for the system to be used. But there is no intelligence in the battery. There is nothing else than just charging. And the alarm is set inside the M28 computer or in the Reef app. There was an idea from the beginning to have deco information inside the battery, and you should move the battery between machines. That never worked, and it has never worked. On the 7, that was on MK6. On 7, it was never there. So it's just a stupid battery, but it has some lithium charging tips that I'm talking about in another video that you should take care of. So you need to keep it fully charged at all time. So then we're going to talk about the digital cells. If we go one step further and talk about the analog cells to begin with, the analog cells is the Achilles heel of the system, because everything else is rugged, it will last forever, but the cells has 1 year lifetime. So if you buy analog cells, you need to replace them every year, and you need to buy 2, and they are about $100 each, so it's $200 to keep the system up. You can think of them like an air filter for the car, oil filter for the car. You change them every year and the system works perfectly. You can push them a little bit so they can be alive for 15 months. The machine will just tell at one point, and since this is from another planet when it comes to CCR monitoring, the machine, when it comes below a certain point where the signal is not stable or is not reliable, Poseidon just decide that below this level it's gone. That level will not occur before 12 months, I can assure you that. But as you keep pushing it, you can start the machine, and then suddenly after 13 months or 14 months or 15 months or even 18 months, you can actually get the machine started. At the end of the lifetime, you will have some trouble if it's cold outside, if it's moist outside. They will be like a grumpy kid getting off to school, because you can keep them hot in the pocket if it's cold outside, and then you can take them out and put them inside the machine, and then you start it up and they are good to go. The problem is that the machine will test the cells every 5 minutes during a dive. So if they are on the edge of their lifetime, you will get a C1 alarm. So you would just know that it's not dangerous, because if you get a C1 alarm, I will cover that one in a separate video, but a C1 alarm is not crucial for you. You can just make sure that you know that the machine is always trying to keep you alive. When you get an alarm like C1, when the cells are really old, it just tells you that this is way safe, but I just want to remind you that I don't like it, so let's bail out and change cells. Then we move over to the digital cells, because when you have the analog cells, you always have this like stone in your stomach, or always have this anxious, but I go to a dive trip, or I go to a dive site, and are the cells okay? Will the machine start, or do I have any problems with the machine? Do I get a C1 or whatever? Once you change to the digital cells, you can just forget about the cells. I've been diving this machine for 8 years now with digital cells, and I didn't have one fail up start at all. And I really push the machine. I'm ice diving, I dive many hundred dives a year, and I've been in the development department of Poseidon, so we are really pushing the machine really hard at some points, and I had no problems whatsoever. You should be aware of that they need to be recalibrated. They are sliding out a little bit over time, so in 8 years now, since 2016 and up till now, a couple of thousands of hours on the machine, I had them recalibrated last year, or maybe it was 1.5 years, because the R&D boss at Poseidon, he told me that we are seeing this trend now a little bit, so let's see what your cells is doing, and then he just pushed the button and they're recalibrated. So they're not broken in any way, it's just that they need to be put back on track, and then I will get another period of diving, and in my case I will get another 8 years of diving before I need to recalibrate them again. So I think that the lifetime of the cell is actually 20 years. So I never had any stomach ache for the cells, and they are just a component now, so it's like a rubber hose or a T-piece or whatever. I just put the cells in and I just forget about the cells. So 2024, they are $900 each, but then you can calculate easily, it's 9 years of changing the cells for analogs. If you are buying them in a package, I actually think that the price is a little bit lower, so it's more economically to buy the cells when you're buying a new machine with the digital cells to start with. Then we are talking about 5-6 years of investment. So please get the digital cells. You will not be unhappy with that one. Then we move over to the rubber hoses, because hoses is a part of the electronics package. This is a package that I can easily put away, protect it from water, and I can rinse the canister, and I can rinse the buoyancy package that we're going to talk about in the next video. This is the electronics package, and here we have two hoses. We have one for the oxygen and one for the diluent. I changed the specification a couple of years ago to go from MyFlex hoses to rubber hoses, because they are better on bending, they don't get damaged. I have different length here, so if you're getting this is 13 centimeters and this is 18 centimeters. This is because the connectors are not centered, so this tank is a little bit further away. I will show you in a minute how this looks on the machine. If you go with MyFlex, and I know that some of you guys have MyFlex, they are the same length and they are 20 centimeters. This means that they twist like this when you have them on the machine and you try to keep the tanks at a certain height and angle. And MyFlex hoses are not so good if you are doing this and then you pinch it like this. If I pinch harder here now, it will break, and then no gas will come through. So in my opinion, I don't like MyFlex hoses. Please use rubber hoses. On the BOV mouthpiece hose, there is a MyFlex hose on most machines that is delivered still today. On the inversion kit, there is a rubber hose. So for the technical machine, there is a rubber hose here on 19 centimeters, 90. They don't like the rubber hose thing at the office, because some customers in the beginning, or some test divers in the beginning of the MK6 times, they thought that the rubber hose was too heavy, so the mouthpiece was hanging like this in the mouth. I've fixed that one on my machine, that I just put an angle here on 115 degree. You can buy them in any dive store, and it's just like an angle, so you get the hose more to your body or your neck, and then the weight is not a problem. It's not a problem out here either, I don't think so, but this makes it even better. If you try to replace this one, just get a 90 centimeter rubber hose instead of the MyFlex. Then we're going to move over to the HP sensors. The HP sensors are a little bit sensitive here on the cable gland, so please be careful when you are handling this package. They need to be straight angle from the first stage. You cannot put this one like this or a little bit like this, because the physics of the coupling here makes it unable to put it like this, because you will not get it tight to seal. So they really need to be straight, and when you have them straight, you really need to tighten them hard, because they should not shake loose when you are handling the package like this, because if they are a little bit loose, they will leak directly when you go into the water. On the other first stage, on the diluent side, I have a rubber hose for the BCD. And this one, you can actually put it on a port and just have it straight out, because it will just come straight over your shoulder and down to the inflator hose. On this machine, I just put one of the swivels just to make it more snug fit. And here you can see also, we will have a look at that, but I put the swivel here, not in any other places. So here, with this hose coming this way and this hose going out to the mouthpiece. This means that when I put the tanks on the canister, I try to make the angle a little bit tilting forward, because the hose for the, if I go a little bit forward, the hose for the BOV, for the mouthpiece, goes like this. It doesn't go into the first stage of the oxygen. So I tilt both because it looks nicer, and you will see that it works really, really nice with 13 centimeters and 18 centimeters. So here we have the A package, the canister we were talking about on the first video. Tanks up, because it's a recreational machine. It's not a technical, where we put it downwards. We will cover that later in a couple of minutes. I just grab my thing here, and this is the nice part. I just grab it like this, and I put the E module inside the machine. And when I'm done diving, I just unplug the first stages and I take my E module out. I take off the hoses for the mouthpiece, and bam, I have the electronics off the machine, and I can rinse the package with water. Of course, I need to take out the canister and the repackable canister inside here, so it's just like plastic inside. But then I can keep it like this in my garage or in the dive shop. I can just store it like this. Tanks is here, everything is standing. That's why we have the stand, and it's easy to configure. So we put in the E-module. We push it down a little bit. You need to make sure that there's no gap here. You're going to learn that in the courses. Your instructor will show you. But if you don't push the E-module down completely, you will have a PO2 problem when you're diving and get some annoying alarms that you don't need to have. So this is the oxygen side, and here you see the hose. And this is the diluent side. And this is what we call a snug fit. Because here you can see that it doesn't look like this with the hoses. There are some people in the audience that recognize this. When these two are too long, it will look like that. Now it's a snug fit, and you also have the angle for the mouthpiece hose here. So this one is really, really nice. And that is the electronics package for the recreation machine. And here you have the BCD hose, and here is the cable for the M28, or if you have the paddle, and here is the mouthpiece thing here. Now the only thing we need to do is to put the hoses on, and as you can see now here, it's a little bit messy here. So for me, I keep the hoses on the canister when I store it in my garage. I can rinse them with a hose, I can disinfect them, take them off when I disinfect the machine, but keep the hoses on the package as is. I just took it off now because I wanted to show you clearly how it looks like with all the hoses and cables and stuff. And now we're just going to put on the rail for the package, for the buoyancy package and the lungs that we are covering in the next video. But this is what it looks like with the recreation machine, a little angle there. And as you can see now, this bottle is a little bit lower, and that's why we chose this tank band. Now I can just do this, I adjust a little bit, and I do this. Yeah. So that is the reason why I have this tank band. Now we have the recreational package ready. We have talked about the black battery. We have talked about the digital cells and the analog cells. What is the difference? If you just need to know anything more, just write me an email or just comment or whatever. I will talk you through it, but it is worth the investment, I know. And you should not go with one. There are some misperceptions that you should use one of each, and then you will just have the same stomach ache with the one cell that is not old enough or old enough and is not working and so on. You get 2 digital cells, period. Then you have no hassle and no problems diving, and then you can just dive all year round. Now we have also talked about the rubber hoses. You know why we should have the rubber hoses. They are more rugged, they are better quality, and yeah, they last longer, of course. So go with the Poseidon hoses. They are really, really nice when it comes to handling. Now we're going to move over to the Tech 100 machine, which is the inversion kit. So I'm just going to leave you with that and see you in a sec. And then we're going to move over to the Tech 100 option. As I told you before, there is no duration and there is no deep configuration. Forget about it. It's the recreational one that I showed you. Bottles up, short hoses, one computer, bailout, no deco, go to the surface. Once you move over to the 40-meter deco course and onwards, the 60 meter, the 100 meter course, mod 1, mod 2, mod 3, you need to have certain equipment and certain stuff on your machine to be able to do the courses. And one of the things is that they turn the bottles upside down. So we have the same E-module, and as you can see here now, I have only rubber hoses on this machine. I changed the hose for the mouthpiece to rubber hose. I even put a cable gland or a protection on the hose here. This is from a normal hydraulic company, which is a cover for hydraulic hoses. And here I have the angle, and I have a shut off. So when you do the mod 3, it's recommended that you have a shut off, because you don't want to have high helium gases go into your mouth as you ascend through the courses and through these stops when you're going up. So that is an extra. But it's rubber hoses, same mouthpiece, same E-module, same black battery, of course. Same first stages, but the only thing is that we need to have the hoses going down to the valves that is here instead of here. This means that we have to have longer hoses for the first stages. And also I have on this one, I have 2 extra hoses for the MAVs, which is the manual add valves, and they are the push buttons that you use for diluent and oxygen as you are doing skills and if there is a problem with the machine and you need to fly it manually. I will now put the package here, or the A package that I just showed you earlier. So now I just took the valves and placed them the other way around. And as I told you in another video, I can show you more exact right now. We want the valves to be straight. We don't want any angles on them. And here I have this, since I have the Poseidon valves, I have this M12 thread. So I bought a rubber ball from a machine company that has knobs and bits and pieces, and then you can see a threaded rod, M12, and then I can just tighten it up like this. This took me years to come up with. Most of the inline valves has a threaded top. The Italian ones has M8 by 1.5 or maybe 1, and I'm not sure about Nowtech, but Poseidon valves have M12. These ones are not sold anymore. They have redesigned the valves. They are going to make them again, so there will be a thread at the top. But what I do now here with the height is that I grab it from the compressor, I stand it like this, put it here. I have these tank bands, 1 click, bam, done. So this is how I store the machine. And I told you before that I'm using the hoses, or keeping the hoses on the machine, because when I start fiddling with all the hoses and cables and stuff, it's not so easy to get the nuts tight here. But I will keep them off for now so you can see exactly what I'm doing. I take the package from my box, from my bag, from my safe place, and I just place it on the E-module opening at the top. E-module, go here, make sure that I push it in. Sometimes I just push it in a little bit and then I forget about it, because just make it ready here, because then you will not have to go back and do all the small parts. And as you can see here now, I also got some protection on the hose at the top here. It's just for show, it's just for testing. I'm trying to get rid of all the hoses and stuff. And if you want to get the hoses off of the way, you could actually get some of the 90-degree angles for the gas connectors here, which will keep this more streamlined. There is one product for the future that I hope that Poseidon will get going, is that I want to turn this one upside down to get all these contacts pointing downwards inside here, in this cavity here. I didn't get a prototype to test. Maybe it's coming soon. I will test it, but my idea was to change a little bit here so we can put the contacts on the underside. That would be really, really nice. So we have more streamlined. And then for sure also the cover will protect it here if you have the steel cover. Now you can see that we have the rubber hose for the mouth. We keep that off a little bit because the other hoses we want to keep on each side of the rail. Because the rail is the one that we are connecting the BCD and the wing at. So I can actually put a cable gland here, or cable tie. I can put a cable tie down here, and then I can just slide in the first stage. So I slide it in here and just attach it to the oxygen tank. Just do 1 or 2 threads there. Same on the diluent side. I tuck it in behind, get it under, and there we have it. And now you can see that I have 1 hose for the MAV on this side, 1 hose on that side, and the BCD hose here. This means now, follow me now closely. I have rubber hoses. This is a rubber hose inversion kit. I got a 16 centimeter hose here at the bottom. I've choose another distribution block than Poseidon is providing, because Poseidon distribution block is this big. It's rugged, but it's impossible to keep it inside here because it's not swiveled at the bottom. This one is swivel, so I can turn it back and forth. And since the Poseidon block is not swivel, you always get it on the tanks or on the canister and it's just pointing straight out. This will damage the canister and it will oxide there. So please try to get this one. You have from Omniswivel, you have this. This is a JJ thing. They can make some stuff in Denmark. And it's a snug fit, as you can see. Cable glands, cable ties here and here and here. And you just keep it here so it's a flat front when you come with a buoyancy package. You have a 16 centimeter rubber hose here. You have a 50 centimeter rubber hose to the top. You have a 70 centimeter rubber hose to the top on the oxygen side. You have a 90 centimeter rubber hose from here to the mouthpiece, which is here. You have a 75 centimeter rubber hose for the wing, because since this block is down here, the length of a normal inflator hose is not enough. So to have the correct length, this one should be in the package, not always, but this is 75 centimeter long. These two for the MAVs, for the pros that is looking at this, they are from the package, of course. If you buy the large lungs, you just buy the buttons and the hoses is 110 centimeter each. You take this one from the first stages all the way up around over the wing, down on the back side of the lungs and out on the sides, and you hook them up to the buttons that you have here. The same length goes with the metal MAVs that you can buy if you have the back mounted counter lungs. And this is what it is with the electronics. So it's B1 for the recreational one, 40 meter, and B2 for the 100 meter. And it's really, really easy. When I'm done diving, I can just come to the dive shop, or I can come to the garage at home. I just unhook. Well, first of all, we can look at this. You can see the snug fit that is here. It's really, really nice. On this machine, I put some manometers here. It's not... You have to be careful, because if you crack this one, if you hit this one when you put the machine down, it's some way protected, but if you break that one, the dive is over, or you need to have a plug to plug it. But now it's easier for me to see the pressure in the tanks without starting the machine. I just unplugged this one. The 2-1, I try to get them out. It's not always very easy. Get this one, the oxygen out, and then I can easily just pull the screws here, make sure that they are completely loose. If they are not completely loose like this, like a rattlesnake, you will damage the threads in the plastic top of the machine. Push a little bit in the front, pull a little bit. Be careful also when you pull the hoses, because I've seen people, including myself, pulling like crazy in the hoses, and then I see gas leakage when I'm underwater. So in the experiment in the R&D department, when I was lifting the machine in this and so on underwater, don't pull it too hard here. Use your thumb a little bit at the front on the lip, and then try to push the lip here a little bit. Not too much here either, because it needs to be lubricated here, so it slides in and goes easy out. If it's very hard to take off, then it's not working for you. When it comes to the battery, we talked about that earlier, and I need to tell you about this. If I now do this, I just push here, the battery will fly out and bam into the ground in the concrete floor, and I will crack the plastic. There is many students, maybe this many I know, now this many I know about. Actually 5. 5 students in all these years had been cracking their or breaking their battery in the concrete or in the asphalt or whatever, and they are, 2 of them were in Malta, different location of course, but then the dive, not the career, but the dive trip was cancelled because they didn't have an extra battery with them. So if you are upgrading, if you can see a battery, even if it's green, you buy a battery for $50 somewhere, just get an extra battery in the group so you have it, so you can at least save the day when you go to Norway to dive for a week, you go to Malta or whatever. Because if you're not careful, you will break the battery. And as you can see now also, when I take out the battery, the machine is leaning backwards, which is good, because now I can actually get the water out from the pins. If the machine was leaning forward, or I'm lifting the head on the recreational machine, I lift the head and it's easy to put it like this. Then the water will come into the pins and you will have corrosion on the pins and so on. So a stand is a good thing because it leans backwards when you have it stored during the nights between the dive days and so on. So you just take the battery. When you release it with your thumb, you catch it or you protect it with your hand. So you take this thumb and you push the battery here, you push the button to unrelease the battery, and you cover it with your hand. So take it out slowly. Shake it, dry it, and make sure that it's completely dry, because the cavities here are holding a lot of water. Stupid design, if you ask me. One of the holes here is the connector for the locking device. So one hole is okay, but the other ones, I don't know. Put it in the charger, take a towel or something and just dry it out here. So there is no water on top. So if water is here and going down, it can come to the pins. So just don't be super cautious, but just think a little bit when you are handling the battery and the water and taking it out. Never ever just go from the water, salt water, go to the dive boat, unplug the battery. That will cause you problems because it's unprotected metal here. These are gold pins in the 7 Plus, but they cannot take too much standing salt water. So take care about the battery. If you just use your common sense, you will have no problems. There is a lot of people that don't care about the battery, they don't understand. There is a lot of people having problem with the battery. They have to buy new batteries, they have to send it in, they have to change the contact, they have to change the pins and so on. And it doesn't have to be that way. Just think a little bit when you take it out, dry it out. Keep the cloth inside here if you store it on a dive boat or in the dive center during the night for the next dive. And then you can keep it as is. You don't need to take the E-module out. When we are doing the next package, the next video, you will see now that we have A, we have B, and the C package which means that when we take it apart, it's only 3 packages that we have, not 22. Not unscrewing everything and taking all the hoses off and so on. Forget about that. A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. Keep it simple. So now we talked about the recreation machine and we talked about the tech machine, and we are done with the electronics so far. So let's move over to the next part for the buoyancy lungs.